Hi, everybody. My name is Ray Ruga, co-founder of Fintech Americas, and welcome to the Treasury Summit panel on Latin America. We're very excited to be with you all today, and congratulations to the Treasury team for this impressive show and the wonderful community that they have brought together. Today, I'm joined by two founders, fintech founders from the Americas, Pablo Viguera, who's the founder of Belvo, based out of Mexico City, and Sergio Jimenez, who is founder and CEO of Flink, also based out of Mexico City. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for inviting us.
So for everyone out there, Latin America has been a region that I believe personally has been somewhat overlooked in this whole fintech wave that we have seen in the last decade. I think finally our time is arriving now as the world hopefully comes to see the great opportunities that the region has for fintechs, technology players from all over the world. Give you guys a little bit of a framing. So you're looking at a region about 650 million people. We're looking at about $6 trillion roughly in GDP. We have 160 million millennials in the region. Our rate of smartphone adoption is up in the 70s and moving north, while in most urban areas is actually north probably of 100%. And unfortunately, we have a sizable population, probably in the aggregate of 50% unbanked, underbanked throughout the region, which really poses a tremendous opportunity for fintechs and innovators to come in and help us bridge this gap and help propel the development of the region forward. So with that being said, we have two founders that I think that are working on some of these opportunities and challenges. And so I want to introduce, I'll start off, and Sergio, if you can give us first a little bit of a background on yourself and on Flink and what you guys are doing.
Yeah, thanks, Ray, for the introduction, and thanks to Treasury for the invite. Yeah, I have a little bit more of 7 years on the fintech space. Flink is my second fintech startup. The first one was a software development for credit companies here in Mexico. And yeah, we started Flink on 2017. We launched on August of 2018. Flink is a digital bank. We offer a current account for every Mexican here in Mexico. You can open an account with us in less than 3 minutes, and you get access to different functions so you can manage your money in a more useful way. We have from budgeting tools, automatic saving tools that we use with behavioral economics, P2P payments, split every purchase that you make in the app. And right now we have a little bit more of 200,000 active users in the platform. And the latest update about us, we launched the first fractional shares trading service here in Mexico. We launched it on the last week of June. We have right now a little bit more of 30,000 people already investing in our platform, and we have a wait list of more of 500,000 people waiting to start investing with us.
And we'll go, but just to clarify for the audience, what you're offering is investors in Mexico, which represent very small percentage. We're talking 1% of the population have access to investment in equities, right?
In both products, on the basic banking account here in Mexico, we have a little bit more of 30% of people that it's unbanked. And when we're talking around unbanked and underserved people, we go up to a little bit more of 60%. And we saw that there was a huge gap between what traditional banks were offering and what new generations were asking for. And on the trading service, it's even more critical. Here in Mexico, less than 1% of the population has an investment account. So we saw that there was a huge opportunity to start providing access to millions of people here in Mexico.
And one more point of clarification, the access, the shares, the equity that they're able to access is from the New York Stock Exchange, correct?
Yeah, we have a partnership with a broker in the US, so people can start investing with a little amount of $1 on this company that you have listed on the New York Stock Exchange.
Well, congratulations on that. We'll go back a little bit more and dive deeper into that. So, and Pablo, you give us a little bit of your Belvo's background.
Yeah, absolutely, Ray, and also thanks for having me. So Belvo is the open banking API platform for Latin America, and we allow fintech innovators and developers to access and interpret their end users' bank and financial data. Right. So, and our API is also the easiest and most developer-friendly way to connect bank accounts or financial data to any fintech app. At the moment, we're live in Mexico and Colombia, where we have about 85% of the coverage and work with some of the leading fintechs locally. So, in the field of credit solutions, neobanks, accounting and ERP, and so on. And we'll soon also be launching in Brazil in the next couple of months. A little bit more about us as a team and what makes us unique. We're LATAM first and LATAM only, and we're also pan LATAM, right? So when we think about giving access to this data, we think about LATAM as a whole to support ambitious founders like Sergio. I'm sure Mexico is one of his first countries where he'll venture, and we have deep expertise in the trenches of the financial sector. I come from background in finance and investment banking, and we also have experience in some of the leading fintechs globally on the consumer side of companies like Revolut. And we started the company a year ago, based out of Mexico City and Barcelona, Spain. We're now opening up an office in Sao Paulo in Brazil as well. To date, we've raised $13 million from some of the leading venture capitalists in the world, such as Founders Fund and Kazakh Ventures.
Well, congratulations. A question for you, Sergio. How big is your team?
Right now, we are a little bit more of 40 people. We are a really lean team when you're talking around the user base that we have right now.
Well, that's the benefit of technology, is that you can service all those accounts and you don't need all those branches and people to do it. Is it all Mexico based, the team?
Yeah, we have almost everyone. It's in Mexico. We have our head of growth. It's in the US. He used to work on Acorns, and yeah, we are on the road to get more people that has already experience, background in the scaling up companies in different key segments.
What about you, Pablo? How big is your team? And is it you mentioned Barcelona? How did the distribution of the team look?
Yeah, so we're also close to 30 people at the moment. So we have two hubs right now, Mexico City and Barcelona. Barcelona is where we have most of our tech and product and engineering folks, and Mexico City is where we have everything that's more customer facing, operations, and so on. And the office that we're opening now, or the team that we're setting up now in Sao Paulo will look to replicate what we have, or the structure we have in Mexico, to serve the local Brazilian market.
Awesome. So, well, now we've introduced ourselves, and we sort of framed each of our where we're coming from. Let's get obviously into what I think we're all one of the thing that's top of mind for all of us, which is all this disruption that we're looking at now, really principally being led by the COVID pandemic, which is in many ways has changed life for everyone, all around the world. Looking at it from your perspectives, I mean, you guys are successful founders of these fintech companies. You're both coming off of a fundraising rounds. How has this, or how is this situation affecting your perspective, and I think maybe even more importantly, your outlook towards the way the market is going to move and the way consumers are going to move? I'll start with you, Sergio.
In our case, and the behavior that we have seen in our user base, people it's trying to get more attention in terms of saving and investing their money. They are trying to be more wise around how to structure the future. So since the COVID, we have seen a raise of sign-ups and people activating cards and accounts with us. I think in Mexico, more than 90% of the transactions are made on cash. So we have a lot of things to do in terms of making digital all the population here. But I think that this COVID situation put us in a unique situation as a fintech company, and everyone here on the space. We have the opportunity to take a step further on acquiring a better market share, because we have the technology, and also we understand the needs of these people that is trying to become digital. And yeah, as I was saying, the behavior has changed. People stop spending their money in different ways, but right now what we have seen with this investment product that we have already and the savings tool that we have, the increase of numbers in terms of people saving their money or trying to make goals for different situations, and also start investing their money so they can build a better future, it's increasing really fast. So I think that as a fintech founder and as a fintech company here, I think we are gonna see fintechs being more aggressive in terms of trying to acquire more customers.
Now, I think it's important that you outlined, we had spoken, and you had mentioned the average age of your audience, of your customer.
Yeah, for a little bit more of 200,000 active users we have, the average age is 21. From 18 to 23, we have almost 90% of our user base. So we are acquiring these new generations that are asking for digital services and financial services that speaks directly to them. And I think that's the gap we are filling in. And yeah, we're really excited, because as a company, we are evolving with them. We're understanding their needs, and we're trying to work with them directly. And that's why also we're talking with Pablo, so we can see what we can figure out to make up a better offering for them.
And Pablo, you're working now in a 2-country and going soon to a 3-country environment. How do you see the disruption of COVID affecting the industry and the outlook of the industry and of the outlook of Belvo?
Yeah, I think probably kind of twofold. I think on the one hand, and completely agree with what Sergio was mentioning in terms of the acceleration in the rate of change, or the adoption of digital and going full digital, at least on the on the end user perspective. Many people are being forced to consume financial products by changing their behaviors, not going to banks, and they're becoming more and more accustomed to this new reality, right? I think also banks on the opposite end of the spectrum, who ultimately are the ones being disrupted by the full force of fintech, are also realizing that this fintech thing, this digital thing, is really something they should be worried about. It's something that they should really be investing in, right? I think, and obviously we come from Europe, and we spent a lot of our time in our careers in Europe, and we've seen how for the banks in Europe, the time of reckoning was, and similar to the US, right, was the financial crisis, right? So 2008, 2009, the rules changed dramatically, right? In Mexico and many parts of LATAM, for many reasons, whether it's because there's, high bank concentration, there's a high lobby power, banks are part of larger groups that have influence and so on, that hasn't happened, right? And ROEs for banks have historically been, super, super high, right? So, events like these that create shocks to the environment, will fundamentally change the way banks look at innovation, digitalization, disruption, and fintechs, right? I think the other aspect where there might be different consequences is on the regulatory side, right? So on our side, when you look at open banking, there's a very interesting open banking agenda put forth both in Mexico and in Brazil, to basically empower users with what open banking stands for, right? So access to their data and leveraging that data for better access to better financial products, right? The ambition of the regulators might be a little bit, I would say, halted because of the whole situation, because all of a sudden there might be other priorities, there might be other things on the table. Banks will lobby harder against open banking. So it still remains to be seen. Brazil is a country where there's more of a push, and it seems that it's moving ahead with little delay. Not so sure about Mexico, to be quite honest. But in any case, I mean, that's where also we come in, right? So we provide an open banking or open finance platform that bridges that gap. But all in all, as Sergio was saying, at Belvo, we're super bullish because also now, I mean, we deal with fintechs, and we're seeing how fintechs are really doubling down on product. They're really doubling down on improving their experiences with their customer base, and we're ultimately there to serve them to do that.
Well, I think it's important, I think, for the audience, following up on your comments, is that the banking industry, as you pointed out, has been very successful. It's a high interest rate environment in the region. And so they've been making lots of money for a long time. And I think that was kind of a disincentive to really get moving on this transformation. I think if there's a silver lining to this situation has been that, every banker that I have spoken with has told me in one form or another, we thought we were moving fast. We thought that we had a great plan for transformation and that, everything. And this COVID has just said, you know what, it's happening today. It's not happening 18 months from now, 9 months from now. You got to be ready to respond today. And I think that also, if you think about it, if you think about how long it would have taken for regulators across the world to have come to an agreement that it would be okay for financial services companies to have teams working remotely, it would have taken 20 years for us to get to that acceptance. And COVID made it overnight, whether they were ready or not, and whether you wanted it or not. And so I think I'm hopeful, and we're trying to work with regulators in this as well, is that this shock to the system has loosened them up, because they're seeing that we can execute and we can run things using technology to make it leaner, faster, more efficient, and more effective. So in a way, this, the meteor that crashed into the industry called COVID is really shaking things up. And I think it's going to open up, hopefully, the market. I think it's going to, I think everybody's woken up, and I think that everybody's going to be accelerating their plans. Sergio, Mexico is a country that has, there's not that many banks actually, hence part of the unbanked, I think there's 48 banks, 49 banks that operate officially out of Mexico. And then all the other type of credit unions and other services. As a neobank, how are you seeing the environment now with the trust factor? Is the young people that you're attracted to you because you're different, because you're a disruptor, or is it a user experience? what role does trust play, and what do you think is the one that's drawing on this youth movement coming towards your services?
I think there's a variety of factors. The main ones, in our case in Flink, you need to understand as a financial service, you sell trust. People is putting their money with you, and you need to fulfill that trust and confidence so they can feel like secure when they are trusting their money with you. But in that case, what we have seen with the younger generations, it's the apathy around financial services, the lack of interest around investing, saving, using different cards or using accounts of I don't know, current accounts or debit or card or credit cards. It doesn't matter. The lack of interest over there was really huge. And there are different factors like the type of experience that you receive as a young customer. I don't want to say, or I don't want to say like traditional banks are doing a bad job, but they're focusing on people that has more income, more revenue, and they're more attractive to that kind of people. When you're talking around an 18 or 19-year-old people that are doing their first steps on financial services, it doesn't matter. They don't think that they're gonna receive a really huge profit around these customers. So they're looking for products that speaks directly to them and understand the pain points that they have. In our case, in Flink, we are developing the financial services for new generations. We are understanding from scratch the pain points that they have, and how can we be the problem solver over there. And right now with the current account, for example, we have people also, I don't know, we have a customer that has a little bit more of 60 years old. And he told us like, I don't know how to use the split function, because it's not something that he will think that adds a lot of value for him. But when we're talking with the regular customer that we have, for example, it's a function that every customer uses because it simplifies the way that you interact with money. So when you understand the segment and you start developing features or products for them, that's the way I think you will get the interest of these customers. So I think that traditional banks are doing their job in terms of making digital all the services, but I don't know, if you're talking like the experience you have on the branches and you're making it digital, you're going after the same customer. You're not going after another target. And in our case, we are going to a different target.
And Pablo, in your case, open banking is something that we have been, at Fintech Americas. We've been now for a couple of years been promoting this as I think as an approach that would be very valuable, both especially for consumers, but also for financial institutions. What do you think is one of the biggest challenges that you're facing in the acceptance of open banking? Do we need to do more education? Who do we need to educate? The public, the regulators? How do you see the dynamic in terms of open banking?
Yeah. And I think there, I mean, we have the benefit of coming from Europe, where it's a region where both through PSD2 and through open banking in the UK, over the last 5 to 6 years, there's been a lot of push to really drive this as an industry standard. I think in general terms, what surprised us the most, or what has surprised us the most, and in working with with different stakeholders in the industry, has been how forthcoming and how aggressive regulators have been pushing for open banking, right? Because they know it's really something that is needed, or one of the pillars that is required to provide the overall population with better access to financial tools, whether that's credit, whether that's debit, whether that's investment, whether it's insurance, etc. Right? So that's been one of the big surprises, and no wonder they're modeling their kind of open banking regulation and their open banking standards after the UK open banking. I think also one of the big surprises, you know, when we were starting Belvo, I remember, you know, folks were telling us, hey, like, you know, this is Mexico or this is Colombia, guys, like no one's going to share their data, right? Like no end user is going to share their credentials. Even if you promise them that you're going to give them, you know, better credit terms, 20% of the APR, and you're going to give them a response in real time, right? That was the general perception around, you know, what users are going to do. Fast forward 12 months later, you know, we've been shocked by how willing people are to share their data to get better products. And that's just the reality. It's, you know, it's input output, right? So I think in part that's, you know, and that's kind of the third piece of the puzzle, I would say, is, you know, the incumbents do a terrific job of educating or maintaining this education around, you know, this is a system, this is how it's always worked. People and the infrastructure is not going to change, right? So I think the third piece here, you know, banks, they really drag their feet, right? So they drag their feet, even though it's been proven, you know, in regions like Europe where, you know, open banking can be an amazing catalyst to, you know, more revenue, more business opportunity, better understanding of their own customers for banks, right? They can build out aggregation products, they can build out personalized, you know, platforms and so on, right? So, but I think it's just banks that, you know, are in a spot where they've been, you know, holding on to this treasure for the past, you know, 70, 100, or, you know, even more years. And they don't want to let go of it. They don't want to look beyond, you know, 20, 30, 50 years down the line, right?
Well, I'll give you an insight that that we have developed and we have seen in Fintech Americas. You know, most banking presidents don't come from the disruptive, innovative arm of the business. You know, most bank presidents tend to be political deal makers. You know what I mean? They're people, yeah. And so these are individuals that are not steeped in the language of technology and even infrastructure. And so I think a lot of it is there's a job. I mean, it's part of what we attempt to do at Fintech Americas is how do we get these banking executives who've spent 15, 20, 25, 30 years of their careers operating a very successful franchise and tell them, hey, change is here and you need to make this change. And if you're not educated on it, it seems very expensive. It seems very difficult, very disruptive, you know, change my open banking, my core, all these other things. And so I think that there's an element of slow moving. I think this is where COVID has accelerated a lot of this, because I think a lot of these institutions are finding that the system and the structure that they had were not necessarily in the best condition to confront this new change, this new normal that we're all facing now. So I'm hopeful that, you know, we keep doing the work of educating the value of it and the consumers, but I think it's something that has taken us, I think, longer. And you know, Latin America is not unified in the way that Europe was from a regulatory perspective. So I think that also hinders a little bit the adoption. We have a couple of minutes left, and I want to give you guys, you know, so we're speaking to an awesome audience of founders around the world. And I want to hopefully leave here and let you guys who are on the field out there. I'm in Miami, by the way, for those people who, and by the way, we're number one in COVID. But so, but anyhow, I wanted to give you guys the you know, the mic before we go to give us a sense of, you know, what founders can expect and what, you know, how do you see the Latin American outlook for all of those people who might be interested in our region? Sergio, we start with you.
Thanks. I think that Pablo and I'm gonna speak for me, but we are on the same page. People is asking for better financial services, no matter what. Traditional banks need to understand that, and also need to understand the world we are living right now. That if you are not working on an open source, it's gonna be really difficult for you to stay over there. I remember I went to the Singapore Fintech Festival like 3 years ago, and they were talking around the the way that banks used to start working with fintechs, because if not, there was like a lot of problems. So you will see a lot of companies going after a really huge market share and trying to develop financial services for really specific targets. And I think it's going to be really exciting.
Thank you. Pablo, last word for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I totally, agree with Sergio. I think, in addition, LATAM is a extremely exciting, region, not only because of the, of the size, of the magnitude, but because also of the sheer complexity, right? I mean, and Ray, you were mentioning, so there's more and more talent flowing into the ecosystem, more and more relevant companies, but then every country has its own rules, its own regulations, its own infrastructure. But I think at least for us, like the challenge of creating an infrastructure or a part of the infrastructure that can cover the whole of LATAM to support ambitious founders as they build new and better financial products is really like, an amazing thing, right? And also, last but not least, and I think we've touched a little bit upon this, the, building.
Oh, well, I think Pablo got frozen there.
And so on, where, fintech has really been, eating away market share from banks in some shape or form. Fintech can really have that impact in LATAM to drive greater financial inclusion and to give access to money to people that have never had access to financial services, right? So that's also part of what's extremely exciting about the region.
Well, thank you guys. I could have stayed here speaking with you guys for several more hours. Thank you to Sergio Jimenez, CEO of Flink, Pablo Viguera, founder and CEO of Belvo. Thank you both. Thank you, Treasury. And to everybody, come see us in Latin America. We hope to see you guys doing business down here. Thank you, Treasury, and talk soon.